All right, welcome. As I continue to try to find my voice in this journey, I know a lot of what I'm doing is also in the study of leadership. And I believe truly, in order to grow as a leader, you have to grow as a person. If I wanted to evolve into the kind of leader that leads by influence and attraction, then I have to become the kind of individual, the kind of human being that lives a life of attraction and influence. And that means that I have to show up as the best version of myself every day. So every morning I sit down and I go through a routine to make sure that when I show up, I'm mitigating the risk of showing up emotionally unsober, let's so to speak. Um, so the first thing I do is I get up, obviously, and I pray and meditate. I exercise and I have conversations with other spiritual people. I don't do anything with social media, and I don't do any work before 8 a.m. Now, if I'm having a challenging time meditating, if my mind is too busy, and that happens, I love to listen to stories about Buddhist uh, legends. I have this app called Sutara. I jump on it. It's each one is about 5 or 6 minutes, maybe 7 minutes tops, and I get to choose different background sounds, whether it's rain or water. And sometimes, again, that just kind of takes me to a different place and allows me to get grounded before I start the day. And then I came across this one. It's the legend of the jealous king, or uh, sometimes they refer to them as gods or titans. And uh, and the goal here is let's move from the throne of jealousy to the seat of wisdom as leaders. And it's very interesting because it revolves around the four Brahma Viharas. And again, I'm not going to get too deep into the Buddhist stuff because it's not for everyone, but it's a practice, right? And there's life lessons and everything. And I'll be honest with you, I am hedging my bets and I am taking what serves me and I'm leaving the rest in life. So let's talk a little bit about the legend of the jealous king. Allow me to move my camera here a little bit. Um, so here we have the legend goes that there are these two groups of people. You have the Asuras and the Devas. And the Devas are peaceful, the Asuras are competitive, and they're constantly going at it. And the king of the gods casts the Asuras down um, to the foot of Mount Meru. Now, the whole conflict begins because there's this wonderful tree that provides this amazing fruit, and the roots are down in Mount Meru, and the Asuras are seeing the Devas eat the fruit that's coming out of the tree, and they're constantly trying to go up there and fight them and conquer them, and they end up in this cycle of winning and losing and winning and losing. Does any of this sound familiar? So what ends up happening is you get to this mindset of having ultimate power, but then you're plagued with the fear of losing it. And then that creates an air of jealousy, of guardedness, where anyone who's starting to rise and grow, you're looking at a potential threat. I know throughout my journey in business, there have been plenty of times when I've been succeeding and growing and doing amazingly well, and my direct supervisor started acting differently. And I realized later on that individual was more worried about me growing and taking their position than them growing further as a leader, or the fact that because I'm growing, because of their influence, they also grow, right? They weren't able to see that. So what ends up happening is you become isolated. These are those leaders that have high turnover, that people get to a certain level and then, they end up having either to leave the organization, or end up leaving the business. So what that does is it forces you to act out of scarcity, right? Um, if I'm more afraid of someone coming up to replace me, and I need to be the smartest person in the room, how much is my business going to grow? How much am I going to grow? Right? I like to tell the agents that I work with, I'm going to put you in the rooms where you're going to be the dumbest, brokest person in the room. And as soon as you're the smartest, richest person in the room, I'm going to take you out and I'm going to put you in another room. And I feel that that's my role as a leader. Because what ends up happening is you become stagnant, you become untrusting of people, and that leads to burnout. And that's why you see these people that come in and they grow really fast and then they crash out and their business plummets, their relationships plummet, and next thing you know, they're trying something else, right? And they can succeed at that, but it's that cycle, that insanity of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So how do we break that, right? You have to put in different systems, models, principles, in my humble opinion. Right? Ego builds a throne, wisdom builds a culture. So, also known as the divine abodes, these are tactical mental states for high stakes decision making, right? They start with Metta, which is loving kindness, Karuna, compassion, Mudita, sympathetic joy, and Upekkha, equanimity. Let's break these down individually. So, Metta, if you're looking at it, is um, that's how you create your culture, in my opinion. That really helps going from ruling over to wishing well. You know, when you're in that space of Metta, you have a team that is creative. You have a team that's not afraid of taking risks. You have a team that's not worried about what they say and what they do to help grow your business, and they're going to bring a lot more to the table, right? It's benevolence. It's creating a supportive environment. Sometimes you may call it charity, and we don't like to use that word sometimes, but here it's just active goodwill. Our default setting shouldn't be suspicion. It should be the genuine desire for your team to thrive. You know, it's like a puzzle. If you don't care about how the pieces fit together, you never get to see the big picture, right? You just start, putting things together and it doesn't look right. Obviously, I lead with a firm hand. I'm not gonna. I'm unapologetic about that. The job needs to get done, and let's get the job done. But it doesn't necessarily mean leading with a firm hand to keep them down, right? You lead with a firm hand to lift others up. Let's take a look at the second one. Uh, Karuna, the action mechanism. This is when we get into action. This is about compassion and empathetic decision making. Now, listen, um, compassion in my world growing up, I was a Navy guy. I grew up in Queens, and sometimes compassion wasn't a word that was aligned with strength. But however, I think that compassion is only for the strong. Now, it's the difference between that when someone's hurting, you don't just feel bad, right? You get into action. You help become part of the healing process, right? I was a Navy corpsman, and my job was, if somebody is hurting, to jump in there and make sure that I do enough to get them out of danger, even if it meant putting myself in danger. And most times it did. There were 33 Medal of Honor winners from Navy corpsmen, and most of them were done posthumously, after they died. So, what do we do as leaders? What can we talk about in this one that would enable us to go from being quote unquote commander in chief to healer in chief? How can we create that culture where our team, our sales reps, our family members, whatever we're working on, can come in and know that they could heal, that whatever's happening with them, whatever challenges they're having out there, that us as leaders are going to lift them up, are going to get into the solution with them and understand the struggle. We're not going to allow it, obviously, because we have to fix it in order for the business to grow. But there's a way to do it that will enable them to keep their minds open for creativity and keep them going out there and fighting the good fight for your business. So Mudita, the ego killer, sympathetic joy. Wow, this is a big one. Let me move my screen again so that we can fully get into it here. This is the ability to feel joy with the success of others, even when it doesn't benefit you directly. You know, you learn that early on, sportsmanship. You know, I learned that when I was playing roller hockey as a kid. You had to line up afterwards and shake hands. Uh, I learned that in football as well. You know, you help the guy up when you knock him down. If the defense wins the game, that's great. You know, as long as we win as a team. You know, if I don't win my division and another team wins the division and they're going to the championship, then represent the division, right? And that forces a culture of abundance. And when you come from abundance, you're opening yourself up to more gifts. You know, jealous kings, jealous leaders, we hoard the credit, and that's not, you know, I never want to take credit for anything that my team does. I want them to have that feeling. We're leaders because we've done things in our lives and we felt that amazing feeling of victory. We felt that amazing feeling of achievement, of being number one, of being on a championship team or whatever. Now that's an addictive feeling. That's a rush. And the way that I face that, because I can have an addictive personality if you know me. I want to give that to someone else. I want my team to feel what it feels like to be up there. And I want them to know that it's because of them that we're there. If another team wins, we're in a business right now in real estate where we need to rely on each other more than we compete against each other. So, you know, celebrate the agent who gets the listing instead of you. Congratulate him or her. And then go find a buyer. If you're trying to recruit that top team or that top agent to your office and you get into a relationship with them and the relationship is great and they decide to go somewhere else, congratulate them, congratulate that other office because you just got into a great relationship. And I value the relationships more than I value the outcomes when I get onto these things. Because the more relationships I'm in, the better I can serve my team. Think about it. If you're a top producing agent and you're watching this, how great would it be if you're in a relationship with several leaders of different brokerages, different offices, and they know about your business. And they're purposely training their agents how to deal and how to work with agents of your caliber. Because there's common threads when you're a high producer in this business. So I encourage you. Let's go out there. Let's collaborate. Let's celebrate each other's joys. Leaders, let's celebrate each other's wins. Am I competitive? Absolutely. Do I want to win? Absolutely. Am I going to congratulate you? Am I going to be happy if you win? Absolutely. Because you just raised the bar and you showed me what it takes to win. And now I can become better. So, Upekkha, stabilizing force. This is balance. This is equanimity. Um, this is leading without volatility. So, what does that mean? Listen, I'm a driver, so I operate on high highs and low lows, right? I'm up there, and I come in and I'm going, and I can motivate, and I can get borderline savage about achieving a goal, about uh, whatever I'm doing because I want to win. And when I win, I do have the personality where I can let people know about it, but that doesn't serve me. Because what that happens, that creates high highs and low lows. How many times at the end of the month have you sat there as a leader and have been in almost a state of terror because you're like, now what? Now what? Oh my God, I've got to get the energy to repeat this. When I was in the health and fitness industry, we had closeout. We did 23% of our business the last 3 days of the month. And those last 3 days, we were working 12 to 18 hours a day. It was high energy. We were crushing sales and we're pushing, driving the team. And then the next day we started at zero. We had to figure out how to do it all over again. And it wasn't a celebration the next day for me. As a matter of fact, that night I would go home and I would sit there and be like, oh my goodness, okay. Do I have it in me to get enough energy to go at this again? So how can we find happiness in the middle? Not mediocrity and not average. What I'm talking about is creating that balanced uh, culture and energy in your business. And that comes down to systems and models, to be honest, right? If you implement the right systems and models and you have consistency in what you're doing, you develop a rhythm and a cadence. You're not worried about what everybody else is doing. You're focusing in on your team. You're getting ego completely out of the equation. I often refer to the Patriots with Bill Belichick. They won a lot of championships and a lot of games. And all they were worried about was their game plan, the Patriot way. They didn't care. Bill Belichick did not want to know. He just went on to the next team, right? We're on to Cleveland, right? However, when he played the Jets and the Giants, ego got involved. And the Jets and the Giants would beat him. I know the Giants beat him twice in the Super Bowl. So when he came on those teams, because of his personal connection, in my opinion, that was one of the driving forces why the Giants were so successful. They knew the game plan. They went at him, and he was, those. I don't think there's any coincidence between that. So, because I also know when I go into something and my ego is involved, my ego is going to wreck things. It's going to wreck things, right? So now if I look at that ego and I make it an ego goal objective, right? And I'm just going to sit here and we're going to focus on the goal. We're going to focus on the rhythm and cadence. We want to create that emotionally and energetically balanced place where people look forward to coming into work every day. Where they know good, bad, or otherwise, you're going to get into the solution and they're going to have the freedom of creativity to find their voice and express what they feel works and what's not working. And you as a leader is going to be able to listen. And then ultimately, if you're going to make the decision and you're going to do it with a firm hand, you're going to do it to uplift your team and not keep them down. So listen, if any of this resonates with you and you want to talk more about it, feel free to comment. Feel free to reach out to me. I love having these kind of conversations. All right, so as we wrap the whole thing up, let's take a look at the integrated leader. So we want balance, right? Compassion without equanimity leads to burnout. We want authenticity. Joy without loving kindness feels performative, right? That you're just out there acting and being a people pleaser, right? These four states create a self-sustaining cycle of leadership excellence, right? Create the safe space so you can go into action, so you can celebrate the joy, maintain balance because that balance creates safety, which helps people go into action, which creates joy. There's the rhythm, there's the cadence. When you wake up in the morning, take time to reflect on that. Just remember, the throne is empty, the culture is full. True leadership is not about guarding your status, but about cultivating these four states of mind. And of the four pillars we talked about, which is your current growth edge? Which one do we need to focus on? I'll tell you what, if you want to have a conversation about that with me, text me the one with the name of the pillar, and I'll be more than happy to jump on a Zoom or a call with you and talk about it, because by talking about it with you, I help me. So, namaste. Have a great day. Let's go out there and kill it.